Well, welcome back to another episode of Fertility for the podcast. And as always, I am not by myself. I am joined by another amazing guest, Coach Sophie. Welcome to Fertility Fair.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Thank you for saying yes. I know I reached out to you probably when you were like just about to go out and have your baby or like right after she came. So we're here now and it's been a few months. And how are you feeling? How are all the new mom feels? How is it?
It is amazing and hard and everything wrapped up into one. Sometimes I look at her and I just pray and thank God because it was a long road to get here. And then sometimes I'm like, Mommy needs a minute. Mommy
And
needs
that's
a
okay.
minute.
Right. And that's real, raw, and unfiltered, and that's why we're here. Um, so I know we're gonna jump into that story. So
Mhm.
let's just start at the top with how I start with every guest.
Okay.
So as of today, how do you define yourself? What are those words or phrases that is who Sophie is?
Mm. I will say a warrior. I will say a mom. And for me, it took a long time to be able to say that. So that one is near and dear to my heart. I will say I am also, oh, this is such a great question. I am also a woman with a passion. And I feel like when we become moms, sometimes we lose ourselves in that process. But we also lose ourselves in any journey that we take on. We can lose a part of ourselves. And so my goal, especially in this new chapter, has been to maintain an identity outside of just mom and continue to feed my passion.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. I know sometimes it's like, oh God, what to say? That's a really big question. It's like all of these things popping up, but I feel like you handled that like a true pro, and it was very authentic to where you are literally in this moment.
Thank you.
So let's go back in your bio. You said that you kind of found this secret world, if you will, of infertility. It's like an underground dungeon of like infertility. That's also kind of how I felt like, oh, there, where do I go? What's happening here? Like, who's here? And you found that when you were deciding to become a mom. So
Mhm.
let's go back to that. Let's go back to that space. Tell us a little bit about, I know we could do the whole episode on just this probably, but tell us a little bit about deciding, okay, I'm ready. And then what happened next and how you ended up in the worst club with the best members, because that's what we
Right?
are.
Right. So I decided long ago that I wasn't having kids out of wedlock. That was my journey for me. And I didn't find my forever partner until 2019. So 2019, I think it was like by our third date, I was like, yeah, I'm marrying this man. Like, I know this. I know this. He is the one. That was 2017. And in 2019, we got engaged. I went off birth control. And in my heart of hearts, I was like, girl, I am getting pregnant right away. I am going to surprise him on our wedding day that I am 3 months pregnant. This is going to be amazing. And I went off birth control and I had been on it for so long that I didn't really know what my period was supposed to be like. And it was super heavy. And I went to the doctor and she just gave me these pills to make it lighter. Okay. All right. Well, my wedding comes and goes, didn't get pregnant. At that point, I was 34. And my doctor said, after 6 months, if you're not pregnant, we're going to refer you to a fertility clinic. So, you know, after 6 months comes and goes, all right, let's go to the fertility clinic. And I remember walking in there so naive to this process. Um, I don't want to bash fertility clinics because they do have an important place in this world, but I thought that the doctor had my best interest at heart and that, my situation was unique and special. And what I learned along the journey is that I was a number and it was a business. And my protocol was exactly the same as everybody else's. And, there comes a point where you're so desperate to bring your baby home. You're so desperate to get pregnant that you're willing to try anything and do anything. And that is what my journey was. I mean, I remember after, 4 IUIs, I remember thinking, okay, what next? And in the middle of my journey, my sister got pregnant. And so excited for her, honestly, so excited for her. And I love my nephews, but man, did that take me out. And only someone who has been on this journey can truly understand that feeling inside where it's it's a mix of fear, it's a mix of longing, it's a mix of desperation that it's like, why not me? Why is it so easy for someone else, but I have to go through all of these tests and all of these appointments and all of this and still not bring a baby home? So, fast forward, you go through your IUIs, go through IVF. And at some point, I just was like, there has to be a different way. And my background is I'm a nutritionist, I'm a personal trainer, yoga instructor. I was like, there has to be a better way. And I became obsessed with finding this better way. And it wasn't until I got off all the supplements, I stopped doing all the things, and really just focused on healing my body from the inside out that I was able to get pregnant. And I got pregnant in 4 months. And yeah, I just went on this journey of healing and looking at it a different way. And that's how I ended up getting pregnant last year.
Wow. Wow. I have a couple follow-up questions.
Go for it.
Obviously. Okay, first thing. So I was very much in the same boat as you. Like, we were engaged, and I was like, okay, great. Like, I'm going to get off birth control. And then 3 months' time, I will have an announcement at 3 months, for the holidays. Say, I was very much, oh, Pinterest. I was all in. I was like, holiday announcements. That was 6 years ago, 5 years ago. So I resonate with that.
Mhm.
Also, did your family know what you were going through during this time? Of course, you mentioned sister gets pregnant, right? And it could have been anyone's sister, it could have been best friend, it could have been a stranger, right? Because we
Mhm.
all know that the conflicting like dual emotions is a very real thing, and it's
Mhm.
so real in this journey. Like, so I'm very very happy for you, but I'm also very very sad, also a little bit jealous and desperate and angry and whatever else. So
All the things.
did they know what you were going through? Did that factor into kind of how you were able to manage during this time?
My sister knew. Nobody else knew. Um, and for two reasons. My family and my extended family are very, I don't want to say, they're very cultural. So they have this vision that you should just get pregnant right away, or why is it taking so long, and have you tried this, and you're just stressed out and you're worried about it too much, and I just
Just
needed to,
relax.
right.
Go on a trip. Just relax.
Right. Maybe you need to pray on it harder. um,
That's it.
right. And so I needed it. It was very private for me. At that point, I was working somewhere else and nobody else knew. I was doing my appointments at 7 in the morning to get to work for 9 a.m. So it was hard. And this is exactly why I created the tribe. But my husband didn't get what I was going through.
Right.
He was going through his own emotions on the situation, but he couldn't support me because he didn't know what it felt like to feel like your body is failing you,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
you're supposed to be able to get pregnant easy. We are told that, as soon as you start having baby dance, you're going to get pregnant.
Yep.
So, what's wrong with me? Why this isn't working?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much that is carried with that. And he just didn't get it. And I felt so alone. And for my sister to turn around and be like, I need to tell you first that
Mhm.
I went off birth control and I got pregnant right away, I cried. I was
Yeah.
excited. I'm so happy for you, but I cried
Yeah.
because it's just like, why not me?
Yeah. Nope. Get it.
Yeah.
Like you said, and until you've walked it, until you've been in it, it's hard for someone else to really understand, literally being in that spot. And so you guys went to the clinic, you did all the testing, all the things they want you to do. And
Hmm.
at that point, did they give you anything that said this could be it? Or is it unexplained, which is infuriating at this point? What they tell you?
They told me unexplained. And I had a few fibroids that could be impacting. And I was like, okay. So, like, oh, we're just going to remove the fibroids that are in your cavity and then everything will be great. So I had that surgery right before the pandemic. So what year was the pandemic? 20, it's all a blur right now. 2020, I think.
19, 20, 21.
Somewhere in there.
It's a blur.
All a blur. So I had the surgery right before the pandemic and they took out these 6 fibroids and then they're like, all right, we're going to be good to go. And we weren't. And we weren't. And I remember the day after, no, it was, sorry, I'm lying to you. It was a week after I had my IVF. The doctor called me to plan my IVF, to plan my retrieval. The week after I had my retrieval, right? And it's like, what? I finally decided, you know what? I need to go to a different clinic because this ain't working for me. And I went and found a Black doctor, which to me was very important. Um, because they could relate to a Black body a little bit differently because we're different. And the first thing he said to me was, there's no way you're getting pregnant with all of these fibroids. So you mean 4 IUIs, 2.5 years, a round of IVF was just wasted, because he's like, I actually have to go in and remove them. And I had major a myomectomy, an open myomectomy, so major fibroid removal surgery.
Well, I'll say
Yeah.
because they don't do open unless it's major. Because I've had at this point now 2 myomectomies. They've been lapsed,
Mhm.
and again, still we're still here. We're
Yeah.
still doing this. So as you're talking, I'm just like, kind of reeling down my my list of things that we've done. We also did 4 IUIs, then we've done 3 rounds of IVF.
Mhm.
And, I said before, like, I feel like I had endometriosis, or I have endometriosis, and I also have fibroids, multiple fibroids. And the whole time, to your point, like we've gone through multiple doctors at our clinic, and I feel like we have a really great doctor who does care about us. But at the end of the day, anything new that I'm bringing to the table, I'm bringing to the table, right? To question what's going on, or do you think we need to investigate this endo further, or do you think we need to maybe stop this, do a surgery, and then come back? Which is what just happened this last year. It was like, okay, no, this is not the way. This can't be it. And like you said, like I need to start doing more, me healing
Mhm.
and body healing, inflammation healing, because regardless of trying to trick nature with science, there's still a lot going on in there that I feel like you all aren't being either honest about, or you're just not worried about it because it's not your thing, right? Like your job is to get us pregnant. It's not to heal us from the inside out. And so I
Mhm.
feel like we can start going down that path now. So how do you define infertility? Like, do you look at it differently now? Do you define it differently than the textbook? Because that to me is just I don't even know. That textbook definition doesn't work for me anymore. So like, how do you define it in this new space?
So it's a great question. Great question, because I went the research. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm gonna own it.
Yes.
I'm a nerd. So I went and I researched, and what I have learned about the body is that the body is all about equilibrium. And so, for example, if you break a leg, your hip on the other side is going to hurt because you're compensating, you're balancing. So if your hormones are out of whack in one place, your body is going to compensate in a different way. For example, if you're stressed out, your body goes into fight, flight. So it shuts down reproduction. It shuts it down. It says, hey, this isn't the time to get pregnant. We're running away from things. We need to be fast. So if you've got a lot of stress in your life, your fertility hormones are decreased. So then you try to get pregnant, but you don't have enough FSH, you don't have enough LH for the system to work properly. And so my definition of infertility is imbalances in the body. And your body is protecting you because it doesn't think it should get pregnant right now.
I love that and think that should be new for all dictionaries moving forward past 2024. Like, what? Because you're right. Like, it's trying to protect you. It's trying to overcompensate for the bad happening in there. That's why you're exhausted. With endo, for example,
Mhm.
your body is always in that constant, like, I'm fighting something, I'm fighting something. And I kept saying to them, how could I drop an embryo in a space that I feel like probably is a dumpster fire? Like, literally, like, if I had to name what's happening in there, it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just gonna drop an embryo in there and see what happens. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, we've done that now a couple times and it hasn't gone anywhere. I
Yeah.
wonder why. Like, how could it survive? I'm like, I'm not an embryo. I'm not a scientist. I'm a doctor, but as I'm doing my own research, I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, we can't keep going just in the same direction, the same protocol as I don't use the words average or normal anymore, but as someone who does not have these factors, because this is literally my body already fighting itself, baby or not. And that's why I heard someone say a long time ago, it's bigger than a baby. I'm like, it's right. But you get so stuck on that baby that, I feel like I've said before, like, I neglected a lot of my own healing and investigating because I just kept feeling like, well, if I get pregnant, then I'll deal with all this stuff later. I'll do the surgeries later. I'll do the endo journey later. It's like, well, that's not gonna happen, girl. It might happen for some people. It happens for some. It's not happening for you, sis. And that's because your body is literally doing the Muhammad Ali shuffle in your uterus. So, and
That's
around it. So, I love that definition and it makes a lot of sense. Um, and something that you also mentioned, so we're discussing like healing and holistic inside out healing. You mentioned there are like 5 areas on your
Mhm.
website and in your coaching that really do affect, fertility and women's health. So what I know the deep dive is a paid service, y'all. So we're not going to deep dive on these things because that's what you go to Coach Sophie for in your own time and your own coins. But for this purpose, what are those just general 5 areas that can really affect fertility?
I'm gonna go a little bit before I go macro, I'm gonna go a little bit micro.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
there's 3 key areas to getting pregnant. Your first one is ovulation. Are you actually dropping an egg? Because there's some people in this space that don't. So if you're not dropping an egg, then you need to focus there and heal that. The next part is like prepping your womb. And when you get into prepping your womb, you want to make sure that if the egg fertilizes, it can actually implant. Is that space healthy enough, strong enough? Is your basket well enough to hold that embryo? And then the last space is kind of cradling your future. Are you able to carry to term? So people are in 3 different spaces. Some people are just like, I have PCOS. I'm not ovulating every month. Then you focus on fixing your ovulation and healing your body there. Some people have endo and they can fertilize an egg, but it can't implant. So we need to heal that womb. We need to work on getting the surgeries, cleaning it up, cleaning up our diet, all of that to make it the healthiest basket. They're low progesterone. Like, what is going on? Your lining isn't thick enough. You can't implant. And then the last one is like there's women out there that can fertilize, can implant, but cannot carry to term. And then that's a whole protocol looking at what is going on. Is it the egg quality? Is it the sperm? Is it the lining again? Are you making enough progesterone? Like there's so much. So once you figure out, and this since I've been working with clients, more and more clients, once you figure out where you are, then we break down into the 5. Because the supplements that you use to help your ovulation aren't the same supplements that you use to prep your womb, aren't the same supplements to carry. So once we start at the top and we narrow down where you are, then we can focus on your diet, your nutrition, your stress, your supplements. Then we can focus on advocating for yourself, knowing what questions to ask your doctor, knowing what to look for. Then we can focus on, hey, what testing do I need? Because if you're not ovulating, but you're focusing on trying to get that womb as healthy as possible, you ain't going to get there. And it wasn't until I became a fertility doula and really just breaking it all down and pulling it all away that I realized that, hey, there's more to this than they're leading us to believe. The way I explain it in the group, in my tribe, is getting pregnant is a needle in a haystack for everybody out there. Us on this journey, we just got more hay. And we literally got to be pulling away strands to make it work for us.
I'm just Coach Sophie. Mine is minding it, blowing my mind. Not because this is like doesn't make sense, because it makes a lot of sense. Like it's connecting a lot of dots, and it's, you look back for us, the last 6 years have been like it's been a poof of time, which is crazy. But knowing this knowledge before then, right? If I had known this knowledge or had a coach, at 30, as I'm looking at 36 in a couple of weeks, if I knew that at 30, how much different at least the probably steps would have been, right? Like we could never guess outcomes, and you know what I mean? And at the very best levels, right? We can't predict what could have been. But I think in terms of just like, okay, knowing what to ask. And then to that point, like, okay, if I know I have fibroids and I have endo, and these things haven't worked, okay, let's introduce a new protocol, or let's, as you said, heal one thing at a time. And even now I'm thinking, okay, if our goal is we have 2 embryos left, our goal is to do a transfer at some point in time in the year of 2024, but I had a myomectomy in December. So we're in that healing process still. But in the middle of that, I'm like, I'm still having bad periods. I'm still having pain before, during, and after. I'm still having only 1 week out the month that is good for me. I have more questions.
You have more questions.
I have questions. And that's what I've been doing the last few weeks, literally, is like, okay, I need to get everyone on the same page, because not that I thought that this was going to be a magical surgery and I was going to be pain free and, tomorrow. But again, if I'm still in this space, then I have some work to do. Is it from a diet standpoint, from a natural standpoint? But what else from a medical standpoint can we be doing to prep for a transfer? Because that's where we're at. Like we're not, we have closed the chapter on any more IVF stems. My ovaries are exhausted. They're like, girl, we did our best.
We good.
We did our best. And again, if I would have known what you had said now, I would have done things differently to probably try to get the very best out of those ovaries that were already tired from the beginning of this process. But I'm saying, okay, what does the next 3 to 6 months look like in terms of preparing my body for a transfer? And because we know that's just where we are. And even if we have to use donor eggs in the future, I'm still just looking at preparing my body for a transfer and then full-term pregnancy. So that's a whole different thing. And I'm like just over here trying to get the little bits to talk to you later. But in talking about both sides, we have the medical side and the holistic side. Like,
Yeah.
is there a space? Because we know, again, there are benefits. Obviously, there's benefits to holistic, and there are also benefits for medical, right?
Yeah.
Lots of babies have come from medical intervention. So there's a space there for that. But is there a place where the two can work together? And as part of your practice, like, do you coach patient or, clients, but also the doctors, right? Do you help coach the care teams or, are you brought into the meetings? Are you brought virtually like, hey, here's my coach. Let's talk to her as well. Is that part of your practice? Because that's something I would be like, hey, I might need, like, I can advocate now. I know how to do that. I know how to be strong in the room, but I want them to, again, everyone to be on the same page on both sides of the fence. So does that happen?
So being a doula, I get to be in the room. Now, what I like to do is really empower my client to advocate for themselves. So before we even get into the room, I've got a book. It's a workbook and it's got about 25 to 30 questions that you should be asking your doctor about your situation. And we sit down and we tailor them. And I teach you how to ask the questions because, sometimes some doctors are going to get their back up. If you coming in strong, right? So would you look it up on Google? Like I went to medical school. And so you have to find that balance of, I want to know about this or my body is doing this. Can we work on this? And when you have the right care team, it works. But when there is like a peg in the wheel, it can get a little rocky. And my job is to help you navigate it. And then when you come back with information, I say, okay, now let's look at this in our whole picture, in our scenario. How does this fit? Do you want me in the room? Because I can be in the room. I can be your silent advocate, being like, can we ask like this a little bit differently? Can we reach out? Can we look into this? Um, I do believe that we need to really start working together I like to call them your dream team, as a full team, because the medical side, those doctors got that down. But sometimes they forget that we're a human too. We're not just the reproduction. And there's so much more to this. And I like to say there's also a sprinkle of magic. There's also a sprinkle of magic, whether it's your deity, your God, your universe, your source, whoever it is. You can tap into that to help you make it through this journey. So they're part of your care team too. And when we all work together, we make miracles happen.
That's really important because I do think that, we don't want to just like give up on one or the other. We don't want to sacrifice one or the other. Especially if you're in a place where like me, I don't have any more fallopian tubes. So I don't have, yeah, it's a whole other day conversation. And again, had I known what I know now,
Mhm,
could things have been differently? Could I have, fought to save the health of at least one of my tubes?
mhm,
Who knows? But in trying to impart knowledge on other people and connecting people, and telling people, hey, like, don't wait, find the right people. It's not just about finding the right doctor. It's about all of these things lining up. And as you said, creating the dream team, the holistic, medical, spiritual, just all the people working for your good is what we're trying to
yes.
say. The same way you have, a work board of directors or a personal board of directors, like your medical board of directors, like
Mhm,
who is looking out for you and what you want, and also not just what you want, but what's best for you. Because,
yes.
I feel like, my nurses, for example, they really want us to get pregnant. Like,
They
they
do.
really do. But the methods that we choose to take, may be going in the exact opposite direction. And
Mhm,
that's kind of what it has felt like for us is just kind of this tug of war, really, between in the back of my mind, knowing things are not right. My body is telling me things are not right. I haven't had silent endo. I haven't had, a quiet journey. It's been
mhm,
very, very loud. It's been
mhm.
very, very painful. It's been all of those things. And so with that, like, okay, like use that to your advantage. because I'm telling you something's not right.
Yes.
And I could just kick myself some days. Obviously, you get through it, you process it, and you say, okay, I'm better today. So how am I going to change moving forward? Right. And that's
Mhm.
kind of the place that I've had to constantly put myself in very recently is just, okay, stop when you get new knowledge, stop using it as a regret, stop using it, and feeling guilty about like, well, God, I could have done X, Y, and Z. It's like, oh, no, we know we can't go back. So how do you take these new connections with people like yourself? How do you take, these new resources and use them for good? Because, we're not done,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I haven't reached the place where I'm like, okay, I'm tapped. I haven't gotten there yet. And so okay, how do I use whatever time that I have left, whatever physical time, emotional and mental time, how do I use that for my good? So I appreciate you breaking that down because I know it's going to help others as it's just helping me in talking about it.
Mhm.
Um, so let's try to say, how do you how do you take all of your experience in education, as you mentioned, being in the nutrition field and fitness and yoga and fertility doula? How do you take all of that and bring that to your practice? And tell us a little about your practice and how people can reach out.
Okay. So for me, I was so devastated, heartbroken, and alone on my journey that I made the decision that nobody else was going to feel like this. And so what I started was the tribe. It's the Heal to Conceive tribe. And it's this group of amazing women who are all in different spaces in their journey. And we come together and we have an amazing chat and we support each other. Whether someone is going into the fertility clinic, whether somebody is just having a rough day, we are all there. We support each other. Every month, I have a topic of the month. So this month, we're talking about ovulation. And it's a training. We're learning about FSH, LH, and progesterone this month, and just how those hormones work together and why yours could be out of whack. What signs and symptoms you need to look for in your own body that can tell you before you get the testing done. We have a young lady where her whole period she's been spotting. She's never had a full flow. When we talked about what a full flow looks like, when she got her blood work done, her progesterone was low. So if your progesterone is low, your lining isn't thickening up. So then for when you're shedding, you're not having a full period. Well, that also tells us that she'll never be able to implant because her lining isn't thick enough. Right. So it's about learning, it's about teaching so that these ladies are prepared when they're going into the fertility clinics, when they're having conversations with their doctor, so that they know, because walking in the door of a fertility clinic is so overwhelming. So overwhelming, and they throw so much information at you and you're supposed to just understand and know, but we're never taught this stuff in school, right? We're taught not how to get pregnant, like, you know what I mean? You sit on a toilet seat, you're going to get pregnant, like, come on.
Literally.
So what I feel like my job is to educate and support and help these women learn as much as they can so that they're prepared. We do my favorite month is Prep the Womb, where we all go on like a cleanse. We have meal plans. We follow a fertility friendly diet. We all go on the meal plan. We introduce exercise so that we're all feeling better and stronger and amazing. And we had one girl lose 24 pounds,
Wow.
someone who prepped the womb so well that she got her two pink lines. Within 3 months of joining the tribe, she got her two pink lines. So it's all about learning how to heal your body from the inside out. What I really like to say is become the scientist of your body so that you can own what is happening, so that you are prepared and empowered to bring your baby home.
I like that. That just might be our title of the episode. Become the scientist of your body. Because you're right, no one else is going to do it. Like, I mean, no one else is going to. It's like, teach you these things. Like, I said, we don't learn this in school. We're not being taught this when it comes from a medical standpoint. I
Mhm.
mean, and God bless them. Like, I think they're doing most of them their best, right? And I think a lot of times they just also aren't well versed in it because they're not being taught that in school either. Like, they're not being taught these methods and, different ways to look at it. If they want to be an RE, they are being taught how to be an RE from
Mhm.
a strictly science, medicine, the last 50 plus years of, reproductive health. Like they're not being taught this. And we all know that a lot of our conditions, including endo, is still so wildly like not understood, misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, and it's frustrating, but it's also like, you know what? They also don't have the knowledge, so we have to find it. And so thank God for people like you who walked it, got their way out of it, crawled your way out of the hole. And said, okay, I'm going to dive deep and I'm also not going to gatekeep. I am
Mhm.
going to help someone else. And
Yeah.
what I love about this community is that more often than not, the guests that I have on this podcast have turned their journey, their struggle into a business, whether it's a side business or a primary business, whatever it is. But like the fact that I would say more than half the women that I've spoken to over the last couple of years now have literally spend this into something great, right?
Mhm.
That's needed. That is a gap in our journey. Like there
Yeah.
is a huge gap in our journey. So as we wrap up, I just want to thank you again for saying there is a better way. Because I find myself saying that to myself a lot, but then I'm like, but what is it? And
Mhm.
so I'm like, I know there has to be a better way. There has to be something else to make this make sense. Regardless of the outcome, the process has to be different.
Yeah.
And so I thank you for saying that and empowering and advocating for others and giving us the education that we need. And I hope people have taken notes. Um, but if they need to reach out to you, the way that I'm feeling, I need to reach out to you and be like, I need to schedule a consultation and find out what your rates are and can I make this work? Um, in the grand scheme of lifing and paying for
Mhm.
fertility
Totally
stuff, can I make
treatments.
this
Yeah.
work? Right. Like, can I make this work? How can people find you and reach out to you and all those good things?
So you can find me on you can find me on social media under Fertility Coach Sophie, and I'm on the TikTok, I'm on Instagram and YouTube. And then the way to reach out to me is sophiebyfield.com, and that's my website. And you can learn about the tribe. You can learn about working one on one with me. I offer a consultation, a free fertility success session, 30 minutes. Let me dive into your situation and I can kind of advise you on, what are your best next steps.
I love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining Fertility Ain't Fair, for giving us the knowledge, the encouragement, and the facts of what we need to know. I hope anyone listening who needs this, or if someone else in your space needs it, I hope that you reach out to Coach Sophie. All of her details will, of course, be included in the show bio. So reach out to her, connect, and heal your body from the inside out. So thank you, Coach Sophie, for joining Fertility Ain't Fair.
Thank you so much for having me.